to nobody. It's just another person. Or if you say anonymous, review said such and such. That means nothing. However, though, if Jane Doe is another author in your genre, then saying Jane Doe, author of epic fantasy series. Okay, that's a good qualifier. But is Jane Doe a bestseller? Has she been a best-selling author? So saying best-selling author in, epic fantasy. Now, best-selling author in this genre, saying good things about this book means so much more. And so trying to find a way to translate people you find and to turn it into a good qualifier is going to be a huge difference maker on this editorial review section. So, go as high as you can. If they are a New York Times bestseller, then just put New York Times bestseller. If they are award winner, then put award-winning author. Anything that they've done that can be a qualifier that proves that your book must be good because somebody up in the industry has said so means a lot. The name itself doesn't actually matter unless it's like a famous name that is a qualifier by itself, like Stephen King. Hey, if Stephen King says it, you still put multi-New York Times bestselling author, sure. But Stephen King carries that, right? It's all about a word that means something to the shopper. And when you can do that, that is big. Now, when you've done that, then the next best thing you can do is bold that qualifier. Make sure it's very clear to the reader that that's the thing they see. And the reason for this is that the heat map proves that people don't read what the qualifier said. They just read the qualifier. So we want to draw their eye to it. We want to make sure they see this, because the biggest thing out of here isn't so much what they said, it's who said it and how that links to why it proves that this book either is an authority on the subject, if it's nonfiction, or proves that this is a really good book in this genre I care about. And so we find that if you write your editorial review where you have the blurb, and you don't put a giant block of text, you try to find a good succinct sentence there, but then you form it like this, where right under that is the qualifier in bold. We found that was the highest conversion rate right there. It is an immediate way of telling that reader, this is big, this is good. Okay? So, again, I highly recommend you guys do that. As a matter of fact, in this conference, you are surrounded by authors that have written your genre. You are having conversations, you're having coffee. Take that time and ask if you can have them be a part of your editorial review, okay? And more importantly, list as such. This is a quick way. You could immediately go back to your hotel room and start updating your editorial review section. Just Google how to change your editorial review. An article will come up to show you step-by-step how to do that. You can use that book description generator that we saw to make it look exactly the way it should. Import the code. Within 15 minutes or so, you'll have a much higher converting book sales page, because you now are using this prime real estate that wasn't being used before, and you're translating it into something that means a lot to the reader, that really gives value to your book. One last thing, too, on editorial reviews is also this is where book review websites come into play. If you have had any promotion site, if you've had any book review, ever just write a review on your book, that's amazing. If Kirkus has done it, put it up there. And again, bold Kirkus. But here's another thing, too. There are a lot of websites out there that the name of the website is huge, not because it's famous, but because it translates well. So there's like for science fiction, there's a website called topscifibooks.com. Now, it's a small website, and somebody runs it. But here's what it is. If you get them to review the book, then you can put in the sentence, whatever it is they say. Doesn't even have to be amazing. But you bold up, lead editor of Top Sci-Fi Books. Now, nobody needs to know the website, but again, for the shopper, when they see that, it's like, oh man, Top Sci-Fi Books had to say that about it. That's pretty cool, because the name is in it. It translates. It's a great qualifier. So go ahead and take a look at some of those sites. Find some that have the name in the genre that would translate well. And again, that can be something where every time you pop out a new book, you can go to one of those sites, get that review, put it in your editorial. And one last thing on editorials, you can reuse previous books' editorial reviews. You can put a little blurb at the top that says, based on previous works by the author. And then you can put old editorial reviews there just talking about your writing. That is totally cool. And like Amazon says, even your mom can put something up there. And finally, we come to the last section, which is reviews. And yeah, reviews do make a difference. It is true. But here's some weird facts about reviews, okay? First and foremost, when it comes to the book world, if you have a video review, which it's kind of weird when you get one of those, but they happen, nobody cares. Nobody watches those. If it's a physical product thing, oh, you better believe it. The physical products, those are like gold getting a video review. Everybody looks at it. Everybody watches it. So if you were selling physical products, like a toaster on Amazon, then you really want to work to get those. But us book people, nope. However, though, images got lots of attention. So if you have reviewers, if you have people on your street team or your ARC readers or so that are leaving reviews, if you could just ask them to get a picture of them holding the book or just a picture of the book on your desk, it gives that prime real estate. It shows up. It looks more loved by the reviewers. People actually look at it. It's kind of funny. I wouldn't have thought that. Another thing that's interesting too about reviews is that we found that people don't read 5s and they generally don't read 1s. It's the 3s that get the most attention. Not that you want to game anything in this system. However, though, I would pay more attention to the 3 than I would the 1. And I definitely, 5s are just the 5s that you use to beef up the score. But the 3 says it all. The 3 can be the one that really sells it. And knowing that, I'm not saying you're gaming it, but just knowing that, if, say, you get a 3-star and the person says, this book was actually really good. I enjoyed it. There are some of the pros and cons here to it, explaining why it gets 3. That might actually sell your book better than if the person had given it a 5 and just said, "These are amazing," because it shows a level head. And so people that actually are coming down to the reviews to look at it, they're going to the 3s. They're reading those. They might peruse the others, okay? They might scroll to see. They might stop on a 1, but the 3 is the one that got the most engagement of all. And so if there was no 3-star, then 4s and 2 stars were the most read. And 5s were rarely read, and 1-star titles were looked at, but the review was rarely read. So again, this is kind of just what the shopper is doing when they care about the reviews, when they go down to the review section and actually start looking at them individually. Now, there's another area too, is the word cloud review boxes. I love using these word cloud review boxes for trying to understand better keywords, and it's something I talk about in my keywords and category presentation tomorrow. So if you don't know what I'm talking about on that, highly recommend checking that out. There's some real gold mine, like little nuggets in there, and it comes from those review box word clouds. But that being said, Amazon has those, and what it is a filter to be able to see certain types of reviews by clicking on the box and based off of descriptions or what people have said. But when it comes to usage, nobody uses them. Like, none of the shoppers use them. But it's a really cool tool for us. So again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll want to check that one out. So we've covered the reviews. Let's go ahead and talk about A+ content. Now, this is somewhat new, and I say somewhat new, granted it came out over a year ago, but for A+ content, this is where you can develop beautiful images to kind of showcase your book, okay? Here are some of the ones where I thought were actually like really neat uses of the A+ content. So the question you might be asking is, well, how does this affect the sales? And I'm going to say it depends. If you can make something that beautiful, if you have access to graphic designers that can do it, and we're talking you nail it, then yes, it really, really does help. If you don't have access to that or you can't do it, don't touch it. I know that sounds crazy, but if you do a poor job on it, it hurts. So don't feel like you have to and throw something up there. But if you have incredible designers or your book cover designer made other images, or they can shift the spaceship a little bit so it's a different angle and then take the picture because they do the 3D rendering or whatever like that, then absolutely have another intergalactic battle scene popped up here. But if you feel like you got to go to somebody at a Fiverr and you have to fill that space in, my general recommendation is leave it alone. It can hurt. So I know I don't like to be like either or this, but it's just my general recommendation to people. If you could do a great job, it helps. If you can't, it's going to hurt. So don't waste your time and don't hurt your book sales with it. Okay? So sorry, this is kind of saying too early to tell, not enough data, but they can help, but also hurt, depending on, like I said. Some of the things that we've seen, I've loved seeing maps. The maps have been incredible. If you have a map in your book that you're using because you formatted it inside of your book or something like that, hey, put that in there. It shows the expanse of the world, right? Chronology. If this is a giant series, right? If it's one of those where this is book 17, or maybe you have it's in a universe or something like that, and there's all these, put that chronology, show people where it is. That's a great way as well. More images and also comparison charts for nonfiction can be great. If you have a comparison chart because you maybe have a companion course go with yours, awesome. Showcase that. Make sure people see the companion course. That's a selling point. All right, like we said, if you guys haven't, I would highly recommend checking out that PDF, breaking down the exact layout, kind of a frame and structure for your book description. And here is that QR code. And with that, we can move into questions. We have 7 minutes left. And for anybody who has questions, please step up to the mic so not only everyone here can hear, but also people who are streaming can hear that question as well. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, can you, where does the A+ content go? I mean, that goes on your Amazon page, and I mean, how do you get it in there?
Yeah, so if you just Google how to add A+ content, you'll find an article that will give you step-by-step structure on how to do that. So I always use Google as somebody's like, where do I find this article you wrote? Oh, just Google it. Just type in this name, it'll pop right up. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm wondering about content and trigger warnings in that area in book description. I write romance and some pretty gritty stuff, so I'm just wondering what you think. I have seen some books with content warnings out there. What's your opinion on putting that in that space?
Well, so are you saying actually giving a content warning, like actually writing it in? I think that's brilliant. I like it. Here's the reason. Like I said, and I'm going to keep harping on this every time I talk about this, you as an author need to use your sales page to prove this is the kind of book they're looking for, right? And a content warning, oh man, you know what I'm saying? I know exactly what kind of book this is. Hey, if you say that word, and that's my kind of jam, well, I don't need to read anymore. Click and buy, right? If you feel like you have to tell me that, or if you do NSFW, not suitable for work, right? That's the goal. That's what we want to do, especially in fiction, is make it very clear this is the kind. But also on the other realm, too. If you're a wholesome Christian writer or something like that, you need to show, it shows in your cover. It shows in the words you use and how you present it. But your goal is to ensure that the wholesome Christian reader gets there and says, this is that sweet love I'm looking for. Or give them a fair warning. Whoa, right? That's our goal. So I think that that's a brilliant tactic that should be used, especially in those, because it clearly denotes this is that kind of book.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi there. First, thanks for a great presentation. I just wanted to go back to the A+ content. I've been using it, and you said about using different material. I tend to use the cover. I get the designer to send me just a blank cover without the text on, and then I can add my own little quotes and things with a nice big blow up of the image. But do you think, is that just repetitive, using the cover again? Do you think there needs to be something new?
This is going to be my subjective opinion. I don't have data on it to be able to say one or the other. But personally, I don't think it really adds much when it's the same thing. That's why I think that if you can add more, I think the key to the A+ content to me is more about showing the authority and the capability of the author. The fact that you don't just have your cover again down there, but that you have maybe a different battle scene or a different love scene, or the same two characters that were on your cover but in a different position, or with less clothes than on the, I don't know. Only goes to show that you had the resources to do that, so it must be that much more. That's kind of the way that I've been reading A+ content, is a majority of it is just showing that level of authority, that level of professionalism on the next level. But if you can't display that, then you're kind of hurting yourself, But if you're able to take that book cover, change it up enough or so that, it shows really well done design and layout, then you're still doing the right thing. But if it's more or less like you felt like you had to take it and you just took your book cover again and kind of threw some things on it, it doesn't really look good, it could be hurting than helping. Hope that helps.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Hi, you mentioned that you mentioned conversion rates of 1.5 as an example and 4.5, and I've seen a lot of different opinions on what's good. So what is your opinion on what is you're good but you can still improve rate versus a realistic, not a tremendous outlier, great rate?
Yeah. So the problem about that is that the true, real answer is it depends. If I could really, really like be able to say, you know, if this, then this, believe me, I would have been like posting it. But the problem is a couple of things. Number one is your conversion rate can change based off of the traffic you send in, right? A precondition, like for example, if I send an email blast out to my email list for people who follow, who've read my books, that love my books or so, that conversion rate is going to be a lot higher, right? Than if it's just random Facebook ads that try to get people off Facebook, come over to Amazon and purchase the book right then and there. And so the conversion rate can really change. But what I'm saying is even with that email list, say your traffic source at this moment is your email list, and it's like 12.5%. I'm saying like if you do this right here that we talked about, that 12.5% might turn into 17.5% for it. But for Facebook, it might go from like 1.5 to 2.3. So the source of traffic and where that comes from will definitely affect it. Another thing that affects it too is it really comes down to the genre or the topic. So, you know, for example, I jokingly say is that like people who write like math textbooks or so, it's like there's no readers out there like, oh my God, I need my next calculus book. This stuff is crazy, right? But in romance, on the other hand, I mean, you know, there are people that crush through books like daily, right? And they're looking for their next fix. And so it's a lot easier to convert in that respect than the latest calculus book. So that can then affect it. So if I said like a blanket percentage conversion rate or something like that, the calculus people right out there might be like revolting. How dare you? So it's really hard to answer that because there's just too many factors that play in. But the key thing for this is that, especially if you look at general data over time or so, we were able to accumulate. I'll throw out a number for you. I think 1.5, if you're seeing on your Amazon ads that you're converting at 1.5 or less, that means there's a lot of room to improve. It could be either the keywords themselves or definitely taking action on what we have here.
Thank you. I won't hold you to it as a promise.
Sounds good. Yes, ma'am. All right, and this will have to be the last question, but I assure you, sir, I will definitely answer your question outside of this. I just have to say, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. My friend and I were wondering if you had any data or had tested hooks to see, for example, Harry Potter meets Princess Bride kind of hook, where you compare it to other, works, versus a plot hook, if you had any data on that.
Oh, no, yeah. That's a great hook as well. I like to use that hook at the bottom, though, right before I present the call to action, right? Okay. It's kind of the summation. So they've been reading my book description, they kind of get into it, and then all of a sudden I hit them with the whole, it's like Harry Potter meets such and such, or it's, if Harry Potter was a girl, or something like that, some kind of statement that's like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what this is, right? Then that really feeds up to the call to action, which is, all right, now go buy the book, right?
Awesome.
I hooked you,
so much.
You're read, you understand, I've nailed it with this kind of comparison component, now go buy the book. And that, I think, is a real good path to success on it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, guys, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure talking with you guys. And like I said, I'm going to the Universal Book Links right after this, so highly recommend checking that out. Thank you.